Hello and welcome to another segment of Demystifying Hindu philosophy, mythology, and rituals. One of my viewers has asked me to talk about the Panchakanyas from our mythology, the Ramayana and Mahabharata. But to understand that in the proper perspective, I would like to give a little background about the feminine principle, because it's a very nuanced concept and principle, and we really need to understand that before we can really discuss the Panchakanya. Now, the Hindu creation theory, we have to understand that to understand the role of women under Hindu philosophy and mythology. The Hindus believe that in the beginning there was just this Brahman, the pure consciousness or awareness, pure intelligence, which was called the Brahman, it's called Nirguna Brahma, which means it has no qualities, no name, no form. Now, to experience itself, this universal intelligence had to split itself, divide itself into two energies, an active principle and a passive or a receptive principle. And this and thereafter these two principles or energies multiplied and created the entire universe of name and forms. So the first time when the universe split itself into these two principles, it's called Purusha and Prakriti. Now most people think Purusha is man. It's not. The actual meaning of Purusha is Pura is like a city or a dwelling, and the indweller is called Purusha. And the dwelling being our body, the indweller is our intelligence or our awareness or our consciousness. That is the Purusha. And the Prakriti, which is the nature, is otherwise known as Stri. Now, Stri is not woman. Stri means Saha-tri. Saha means together, and Tri means the three gunas that we have been talking in all our videos so far. The three gunas are Tamaguna, Rajaguna, and Sattvaguna. Tamaguna is the matter, Sattvaguna is the energy, and Rajaguna is the interaction or the activity between matter and energy to create the whole world. So Stri is Sahatri, which is the three gunas that we have always been talking about: matter, energy, and the interaction between them. So in the beginning, also before we look at trace the evolving role or the evolving concept of the feminine power or energy, in the beginning this Brahma created the Swayambhu and Satarupa, who then interacted with each other and created the rest of the world. Now, what is Swayambhu? Swayambhu is born in and of itself. You are not dependent on anybody. And Satarupa, Sata means 100, Rupa means form. Now, energy, which is Swayambhu or intelligence or consciousness, does not need anything to exist, but it does need matter to create something of name and form. So when Swayambhu and Satarupa got together, they created the whole universe. The masculine principle, the feminine principle. Does not mean that the masculine principle means only men have masculine principle or women have only feminine principle. The Purusha or the Swayambhu can be is symbolized by our mind, our intelligence, our consciousness, our awareness. And the Satarupa or matter or Prakriti or Stri is represented by our body, which is matter. And energy creates matter. Matter does not create energy. Matter changes its forms by when it is activated by energy. So that is the relationship with Purusha Prakriti and Purusha Stri, Swayambhu and Satarupa. Now, in the Hindu creation theories, of time is cyclical. Every cycle of Srishti, Sthiti and Pralaya, creation, preservation and dissolution, and the cycle goes on and on, has 4 yugas, and each yuga has a guiding principle. We're talking about this creation of the universe in the Satya Yuga, the Swayambhu and the Satarupa. Then in the Treta Yuga, the guiding principle was Dharma. Anybody who walked on the path of Dharma was called a Pati. Pati is not a husband and Patni is not a wife. Pati is anyone who walks on the path of dharma, and Patni is anyone who helps that person stick to that path and walk that path properly. So Pati can be a man or a woman, and Patni can be a man or woman. Although colloquially people think Pati is a man and Patni is a woman, that's because even though these principles are eternal, Sanatana, the model was always contextual. In those times, the men were the one who were the drivers of dharma, and the women, by and large, were the supporters of those men, or helped them, supported them to maintain dharma. Now, in the Dwapara Yuga, the driving principle was artha. We had finished dharma, artha. Artha is money or kingdom. And so these two principles, the creative principles, became bharta and bharya. Bharta is the one who protects, and bharya is the one that is protected. Again, whether it is man or woman, anybody can protect and anybody can be protected. The bharta need not necessarily always be a man, or a bharya always a woman. It can, whoever is protecting is a bharta, whoever is being protected is a bharya. Finally, in the Kali Yuga, which is driving principle being kama, desire, it is priya and priya se. So love is the driver of these two active principles, the love between them. So although this modern world is obsessed with the man-woman relationship being a romantic relationship, that is not how Hinduism viewed the feminine and masculine principle. Now we can talk about the Panchakanya, put it into perspective. Now, Panchakanya literally means 5 Kanyas, and Kanyas are maidens or virgins. Yet, these Panchakanyas are actually 5 of the iconic, legendary women of our epics, 3 from Ramayana and 2 from Mahabharata. And from Ramayana is Ahalya, Tara, Mandodari. From Mahabharata, Kunti and Draupadi. Sometimes Kunti is interchanged with Sita, but not very commonly. And let us step back and understand the significance of this, because there is a shloka which, let me just read that out to you, which it is said that if married women first thing in the morning remember these 5 iconic women, they will be able to dispel sin. So what is the shloka? Let me just read it out here. Ahalya, Draupadi, Kunti, Tara, Mandodari, Tatha, Panchakanya smare nityam mahapataka nashini. So if you remember these 5 women first thing in the morning, you would be able to dispel sin. Now let's step back and understand what Pancha means 5. Why 5 women were chosen? Now 5 is a very powerful number in Hinduism. It represents the 5 Mahabhutas, the elements, along with the 3 gunas, the Sattva, Raja and Tamaguna. The 5 elements, the combination and permutation of these 2 things has created the entire universe. And these 5 elements are earth, water, fire, air and space. And each of these kanyas represent one of these elements. They were, other than Kunti, the other 4 were not even born from natural women. They were actually supernatural births from the elements. Ahalya was born. There is some variance about some difference between which Kanya represents which element, but there is by and large agreement that Ahalya represents the space element, and Tara represents the air element, Mandodari represents the water element, Kunti represents the earth element, and Draupadi represents the fire element. Okay, that's the Pancha. And Kanya, now Kanya means a maiden or a virgin. And these women, all of them were married women. Not only they were married, they were actually had more than one husband or association with more than one man, and they were far from being virgins. So what possible reasons could the rishis have had in mind by calling them kanyas? Now let us, it is each of their stories is spellbinding, and I really, really urge you to spend a little time trying to understand their stories, because each of them, although there are lots of legendary women in our Puranas, these women had a particular commonality in that they have mastered their external adversities. Each of them were put through tremendous adversity, and they mastered it. Now, Let's start with Ahalya. Ahalya was created by Brahma from pure energy. He just created the most beautiful woman and decided to give her to sage Gautama for her upkeep and upbringing. Now, when she grew up to be a beautiful maiden, Brahma went and returned Ahalya. Sage Gautama returned Ahalya to Brahma, who was so pleased with his integrity that he decided to give Ahalya's hand in marriage to Sage Gautama. They lived happily until the king of heaven, Indra, felt that he deserved Ahalya, that the most beautiful woman should belong to him, and he came down in the guise of Sage Gautama to have a relationship with Ahalya. And while some Puranic stories say that Ahalya was duped and did not know because he was disguised as Sage Gautama, I actually subscribe to the other view, which holds that Ahalya knew that Indra had come disguised as Sage Gautama, but decided to have a relationship with him anyways. When Sage Gautama found out, he was very upset and cursed her to become a stone and live like that for thousands of years, or many years, until Lord Rama came to relieve her from this curse. Now, story to be, and before I go any further, Ahalya literally means halya. Halya is plowed, unplowed, meaning a virgin in literal terms, and she represents free spirit and desire and the virgin spirit, the creative potential. Now let's talk about Tara. Tara was the wife of the demon Asura king Vali, and Vali and Sugriva had a fight, these two brothers, because of a misunderstanding. And Vali was definitely the stronger Kshatriya, and he banished Sugriva from the kingdom. But after some years, Sugriva came back and challenged Vali, and at that point, Tara, his wife, told him not to take up that challenge because he was not capable of fighting Vali. So the only reason he's challenging is he must have a greater power supporting him. But of course, Vali did not listen to her and lost and was killed. But before dying, when according to the custom of the Vanaras, the monkeys, Tara became the wife of Sugriva. Vali told his brother that you must listen to the wise counsel of Tara because she knows what is the right thing to do under the right circumstances at the right time. So Tara represents the earth, the air element, which is our intelligence, our ability to take right decisions. And in fact, she even saved the life of Sugriva when Lakshmana, out of anger, when Sugriva forgot his promise to Rama to fight Ravana and to bring back Sita. He was just enjoying life. Lakshmana came to kill him, and Tara stopped Lakshmana, saying, he's a mere Vanara. He's been, banished from his kingdom for so long. He's just enjoying a little bit. When sages like Vishwamitra can give in to pleasure, then what to speak of a Vanara? Besides, she even reminded Lakshmana that the Rama's camp needs Sugriva to fight a mighty force like Ravana. So Tara is known for her wise counsel, statecraft, and the right thing to do. Then comes Mandodari, who was discovered from a well. She's called the Frog Princess, and she was married to Ravana, the most beautiful, intelligent woman. But she was well aware that Ravana had many wives and was not faithful to her, and yet it did not diminish her love for him. But she was not servile or subservient. She always spoke her mind and warned him and Ravana, and tried to guide him to do the right things, although Ravana never listened to her, and ultimately lost his life because of that. Mandodari represents, because she was found from the water element, which is our emotion, and how to balance our love and our duty. Her love for Ravana never decreased, and yet she was never afraid to speak her mind and try to guide the person she loved. And then comes Kunti. Kunti is the only one of the 5 Kanyas that was born from a human mother, and although she was adopted later on by her uncle, And her story is the only one that talks about her children. Even though all these 5 Kanyas had children, Kunti's story is entirely about her children. And why not? She represents the earth element. And what could be the story of Mother Earth other than the story of her children? She is the quintessential single woman who was a widow and tried to raise 5 princes, 2 of whom were not her own, in a hostile court. And she did whatever it took for the happiness and success of her children to bring back their kingdom for them. And as soon as they got their kingdom back, she had no qualms, no worries to walk away from it. She was not attached to it. She never fought for the kingdom for herself. It was always her children's interest came before hers, always. So Kunti's story is that of forbearance, which is the quality and power of earth. And then finally, Draupadi, she's called Yajna because she was born out of a yajna, fire. And her name translates to she who was born to destroy those who deviated from the path of Dharma, and she who must be obeyed. And why not? The power of fire is such that you cannot play with fire without getting burnt. So her story is equal tragedy, but she never took things lying down, always questioned and fought and inspired people to go on the right path. So coming back to, let's recap. Ahalya is represents the space element, the form, beauty, the form of beauty, or beautiful forms, and free spirit. And Tara is air, represents air, right thinking. Mandodari represents water, which is harmonizing our emotions, living in harmony between love and duty. Kunti is the earth element, which is forbearance and putting the interests of our children. And Draupadi is the element of fire, which is to fight for what is right, not take anything lying down, and destroy anything that is, in the path of Dharma. So all these Panchakanyas mastered external adversity, and they encompassed the entire gamut of feminine power, from duty to devotion, from beauty to brain, from nurturance to destruction, from power to wealth. Now, why were they called Kanyas when they were not virgins? That is because the archetype of virgin is pure creative potential. You can create your life any which way you want. And why it's called that way, why is it said that when you recite this shloka that you'll dispel sin? What is sin? Sin is in the realm of religion and society, right and wrong, good and bad. These women did not follow the conventions of their time, the conventional wisdom of their time. They created their own concept of right and wrong, good and bad. And that is what it reminds the woman, the modern woman, that you can use the elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space to create the life that you want. The power of forbearance, the power to harmonize your emotions, the power to rise upwards like fire, the power for creative and intelligent thinking, and the power to create beautiful forms, whatever they be. And also these Panchakanya, they raise more questions than answer, and that is how it should be, because every time we try to put anything down, write anything down in stone, it leads to degeneration. Every woman or every person must read this and take away whatever they understand and apply it to their life. And that is the beauty of the Panchakanyas, the 5 maidens and the 5 virgins, which is the pure creative potential. I hope you learned something from this, and some ideas to think about. And as usual, I encourage you to please like, share and comment this video if you liked it. And if you have not already subscribed, please subscribe if you want to be notified of any future videos that I will be uploading. Thank you, and stay safe.